Hello and welcome back. In this episode we're going to be using these printouts that you can see here, and we'll be using those to make a kind of rotating bridge. It'll make more sense later on. Anyway, as always, you can find a link to the PDF file down in the description, but before we begin I do just want to say that I've already covered a lot of this stuff in previous videos, so I will be running through things a bit quickly to begin with. So, all I've done here is glued this texture to some single corrugated cardboard, and just like I did with the minecart turntable in episode 39, I've cut a hole in the centre that's big enough for a large drinking straw to pass through. In addition to that, I've also glued the main floor pattern to more single corrugated cardboard, and all we'll need to do then is apply plenty of glue to the back, and yeah, I probably should have used a bigger glue stick for this, and stick this on top of the previous piece. Then simply lay something on top so that it dries nice and flat. Okay then, so once it has dried, we can then trim the bottom piece to size with a sharp knife, and that's what you can see me doing here. So, there you go. And to finish it off, we can then add the 2.5D walls as normal. So, as you can see, I've already got a few pieces cut roughly to size, so I'll go ahead and stick those in place now. And for this particular one, I've gone with exits on opposite walls, but you could also make it into a corner room, if you prefer. Anyway, there's not much to say about this part really, so yeah, there's the last piece going on now, and when we're done, here's how it should look. So that's the first part finished. Right then, to make the bridge itself, we'll take this texture and glue that to a piece of card. And when that's dry, we'll cut it to size. We'll also need to take some of the plain wooden texture and glue that to a piece of corrugated card, and from that we'll cut out a couple of strips that are roughly 5mm wide. Oh, and a bit longer than the bridge itself. Then, if you like, you can start to distress the planks, just by cutting out little chunks here and there, and that's what you can see me doing here. So I'll just fast forward to the end of this process, as it might take a while if you're doing lots of little cuts, and then we can apply some glue to the top of the little wooden strips, and glue these to the underside of the bridge, making sure that they line up with the position of the nails, if that makes sense. So I'll just quickly do the same for the other side. There you go, and we'll leave that to dry. Okay, now that it has dried, we can cut the ends of the wooden beams flush with the edges of the bridge, like so. Now, if I bring the main tile back in, what we'll need to do is take the large drinking straw again, and cut that to a length that's the combined height of both the bottom tile and one of the little wooden beams. Basically, something like this. And if I place that inside the hole, we want this to be flush with the top of the wooden piece, which it is. Okay, next we're going to make a mark on the back of the bridge that's roughly in the centre of the third plank from the end. So, something like this, and that's where we're going to be gluing the little straw piece, just using a spot of hot glue. And there it is being stuck into place now, and yeah, that's the bridge done. Though I have supplied a couple of bridge textures on the page, just so that we can make one that's reasonably intact, and also one that's not in very good condition, just for a bit of variety. Anyway, if I bring the tile back in again, here's the bridge on one side of the room, and here it is swivelling over to the other side. That's pretty much all there is to it. Okay, so now let's assume that a character has fallen off the bridge, and if that happens, we might need a separate tile to represent the bottom of the pit. And from this angle, there would be a visible axle or beam that's fixed to the bottom of the bridge. This is the rotating part of the whole mechanism. So that's what we're going to make next. And for this, we'll take an empty toilet roll tube and cut out a piece that's 2 inches square. And we'll also mark a line that's a ½ inch in from one end. Then we can take a pen and roll the tube around that, just to give it more of a curve. Next, we'll apply some glue to the ½ inch area that we marked out previously, and use that as a guide for how much of the cardboard that's going to overlap when we glue it back into a small tube shape. So, something like you can see here. Then we'll just hold that in place until it dries. Okay, so here's one that's already dry, and now we can cut out this texture here, and also the thin metal strip. Then it's just a matter of applying some glue to the back of the first piece, and wrapping that around our little tube. So, something like that. Then we'll do the same thing with the metal strip, but this time we'll wrap this around the end where the similar pattern appears. And with any luck, that should result in something like this. Next, we can take this texture here, and glue that to some card, and then simply cut that to size. Then all we'll need to do is add some hot glue to the inside of the little tube, and glue this to the middle of the base that we just made. So, there you go, this kind of thing. And, as I mentioned earlier, this can be placed in the centre of the pit to represent the kind of axle thing that's fixed to the bottom of the bridge. Anyway, I did have some extra space to fill on the page, so I've also included this overlay tile, and that could be used if there's a secret passage in the bottom of the pit. Just something extra for the players to find. In addition to that, there's also an extra piece of the floor texture, which can be glued to a bit of cardboard as usual, and this can be used to make bases for other bits and pieces. For example, each of these spikes have been made by wrapping one of the wood textures around a toothpick and then hacking one end into a point, or you might like to add bits of rubble, like you can see here, i.e. something for the players to rummage through. But yeah, you don't have to make any of these things, but I thought I'd include them nonetheless. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this episode, so I'll end with a picture of the tile in action, and as you can see, here there's a group of goblins on the far side of the pit who are operating a kind of winch, which is, in turn, rotating the bridge, thus allowing for a few goblins to cross the gap every other turn. Kinda like a monster spawner in a video game, I suppose. But yeah, that's it for now, so thanks for watching, please do let me know if you plan on making this one, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.